Essex-based emergency.
Hi there. My friend and I got into an altercation, and I'm the only one who came out alive.
Are you telling me you've killed somebody?
Yes, I am.
You're telling me he is definitely dead?
Yes, I'm telling you he's definitely dead. I grabbed a knife and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck, I believe somewhere near the brainstem. I don't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended with me cutting his throat.
On the 17th of February, 2014, an emergency call came through to Surrey Police in England. On the line was an 18-year-old male named Lewis Daynes. His voice was chillingly calm as he reported a death of someone in his flat. That's someone, it was a 14-year-old child, Breck Bednar, a boy who had gone to visit a friend who he had met online. The murder of Breck shocked Britain, not only because of the brutality of the crime, but because it also revealed a darker truth. Predators can reach into the homes of children through nothing more than a computer screen. This is not just the story of a boy tragically murdered. It's the story of grooming in the digital age, a family's desperate attempt to protect their son, and the systemic failures that left warning signs unheeded. In this documentary, we'll trace Breck's life, his relationship with his parents and siblings, the role of gaming and online communities, and the way Lewis Daynes manipulated his way into Breck's world. We'll also examine the crucial 999 call that Daynes made himself, a recording that laid bare his disturbing calmness after committing a murder. But most importantly, we'll ask the questions that still haunt this case. Could Breck have been saved? Were there any warnings missed? And how do we protect our children today, the same dangers that lured Breck into the hands of a predator? This is the story of Breck Bednar. Breck was born in 1999 to Barry and Lauren. For a time, the family lived in the United States, before Lauren eventually returned to the UK with the children after her marriage ended. The divorce left Lauren raising the children on her own, and there was no longer a consistent male presence in the home. Breck was the eldest of 4 siblings, including the triplets who looked up to him as their big brother. At home, he was a bright and curious young lad, with a natural fascination for computers, science, and technology. But the family circumstances meant that he was also more vulnerable than he appeared.
Breck was an easy baby, an easy child, and laid back. He had a good sense of humor, and we would have a laugh at family dinners, and he'd have a laugh with his friends.
Breck was later identified as having autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. These conditions shaped the way he experienced the world. He was highly intelligent, but sometimes struggled with social interaction and found it difficult to read hidden motives in others. For a predator, these traits made him more susceptible to manipulation. As Breck entered his teenage years, gaming became his world. Online platforms provided him with not just entertainment, but also a sense of belonging and community. Unlike school, where friendships sometimes felt complicated or overwhelming, the digital space offered him an escape. But this shift also created distance between himself and the people around him. His mother noticed that he became more isolated from his real-world friends, preferring instead to spend hours in online chat rooms. His behavior slowly changed. The once social, easygoing boy seemed more withdrawn at school, more secretive at home. For Breck, online gaming was more than just a pastime. It became a place of identity and acceptance. Yet it was also where his vulnerabilities intersected with risk. In those digital communities, children and adults mixed freely. The lines between safe friendships and dangerous relationships were blurred. And it was in that space that Breck first encountered Lewis Daynes, a young man who, on the surface, appeared to be another gamer. But Lewis was not looking for friendship. He was looking for control. And in Breck, he saw the perfect target. Daynes was just 18 years old, who was living an isolated, insular life. He rarely left his flat in Grays, Essex, where he spent most of his time behind a computer screen. On paper, he might have seemed like another teenager immersed in technology. But in reality, Daynes was a manipulator, someone who used the internet not just for gaming, but for control. He presented himself as an older, more experienced figure, someone with technical expertise and authority in the online world. Daynes portrayed himself as a leader, even a mentor. He claimed to run a successful business in computing, and created the impression of independence, skill, and status. To teenagers like Breck, who admired those qualities, Daynes appeared impressive. But beneath the surface, Daynes' life was far from stable. He had a history of troubled behavior, and social services had already been aware of his vulnerabilities and issues. His online identity was a carefully constructed mask, designed to hide his insecurities and feed his need for power. For Daynes, Breck was not simply another gamer, but he was a target, a boy who was bright, eager, and, crucially, trusting. a boy whose family situation and special needs made him easier to separate from the safeguards around him. Lauren Lefebvre, Breck's mother, was not blind to the danger. She had noticed how her son's behavior was changing. Breck had become increasingly withdrawn, spending more time locked in online conversations than with his real-world friends. The vibrant boy who once thrived in scouts and school activities was slipping further into the orbit of someone she had never met. Concerned, Lauren took the decisive step of confiscating Breck's phone, hoping to break the unhealthy influence Daynes was having over him. But what happened next was chilling. Daynes simply posted a replacement handset to Breck, restoring the very channel of communication Lauren had tried to close. To many, this was not just grooming. It was outright manipulation, undermining a mother's authority in her own home. Lauren knew something was deeply wrong. She spoke to teachers, shared her fears with police, and raised the alarm that her son was being groomed. But despite her persistence, the system failed her and her family. Police recorded her concerns, yet no decisive intervention took place. Breck's case, much like others before him, became another example of warning signs that were overlooked and opportunities missed. On Monday the 17th of February, 2014, Breck left his mother's home stating that he was going to see his mate who only lived round the block. But this was a lie. Breck traveled across Surrey to meet someone he believed was a trusted friend. Breck walked into Daynes' flat but never made it home alive. What unfolded behind closed doors remains partly unknown. What is certain is that Daynes had lured Breck into his home under false pretenses. At some point during that night, the teenager who had come in search of friendship was met with betrayal of the darkest kind. Daynes attacked Breck with a knife. In moments, the Breck's life was cut short, not by chance, but by cold and calculated intent. And then, in one of the most chilling twists of this case, Daynes picked up the phone and dialed 999.
Essex Police Emergency.
Hi there. My friend and I got into an altercation, and I'm the only one who came out alive.
Are you telling me you've killed somebody?
Yes, I am. I grabbed a knife and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck, I believe somewhere near the brainstem. I don't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended with me cutting his throat.
The call was haunting. Calm, emotionless, almost robotic, Daynes confessed to the killing as though he were reading from a script. At around 12:45 p.m., when officers arrived at his flat, they discovered the tragic reality. Breck's young life had been brutally taken, and the chilling words of that emergency call were now a grim confirmation of what awaited them inside. Breck's murder shocked the UK and highlighted the dangers of online grooming. The boy who had been drawn into Daynes' web was found dead in a flat in Grays, Essex, a flat that belonged to Daynes' grandmother. Before police arrived, Daynes had attempted to destroy the evidence. His digital devices, that were crucial for uncovering the grooming and planning, were submerged in water, a calculated effort to erase his tracks. Investigators would later recover crucial data, but the act showed the meticulousness and premeditation of his crime. It was also revealed that Daynes had planned an escape abroad, with tickets booked in advance, proved that this murder was not a spur-of-the-moment act but a carefully orchestrated event. Even after Breck's death, Daynes, or someone pretending to be him, sent a message to Breck's sister, including a disturbing photo of a skeleton with the words "R.I.P. Breck," further highlighting his chilling detachment and manipulation. When first charged, Daynes pleaded not guilty, attempting to deny the full weight of his actions. But as the prosecution presented the evidence, including chat logs, digital records, and witness testimonies, the truth became undeniable. He later changed his plea to guilty, admitting to the murder in court. In January 2015, Daynes was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 25 years. He will be 44 years old in 2040 upon release from prison. The trial revealed not only the premeditation and cruelty of the act, but also the broader systemic vulnerabilities that allowed a predator to exploit a young, vulnerable boy. While justice was delivered, the outcome could never restore Breck's life. His murder forced the UK to confront a terrifying reality. Predators no longer needed to be physically present to harm children. They could infiltrate homes through screens, manipulating and isolating their victims with frightening precision. Assistant Chief Constable Mr. Gavin Stevens of Surrey Police publicly addressed the handling of the case. He stated the matter had been referred to the Independent Police Complaints Commission for review. "We acknowledge that the response to Breck's case was inadequate and we are committed to improvements." Breck's murder was not just the story of a predator and his victim. It was also a story of missed opportunities, systemic failures, and the limits of child protection in a digital age. From early on, Breck's mother, Lauren, had raised alarms. Even though Daynes had previously been investigated for sexual offenses involving a minor in 2011, just 3 years prior to Breck's murder. If you are a parent, guardian, or teacher, stay vigilant. Watch for changes in behavior, withdrawal from friends, secretive online activity, or sudden isolation can be warning signs. For children with special needs, these risks can be even greater. Breck's story is a painful reminder, but it can also be a guide for preventing future tragedies. If you think I covered the case in sufficient detail and wish to know about more cases, please consider subscribing so that you stay up to date. This is True Crime Uncovered UK. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware and keep asking, why?